To make any real change, you first have to understand the story you're living in right now. This story, the one you've been telling yourself for years, maybe even your entire life, shapes everything. It's the story that influences your decisions, your self-worth, your relationships, and even the way you handle challenges. It might be so embedded in your mind that you hardly even notice it. But it's there, subtly dictating how you see the world and yourself in it. Think about it. Every time you make a decision, big or small, you're either reinforcing or challenging this story. For example, you might have a voice in your head that says, "I've never been the kind of person who follows through." And so each time you set out to start something new, there's already doubt there, lingering before you even begin. Or maybe your story says, "I'm not good at handling money." That story has likely held you back from making financial decisions with confidence, keeping you in a cycle where money feels like a struggle. Perhaps deep down you believe you're not meant to be successful, and every time things get hard, that belief nudges you toward quitting, feeling like it's inevitable that things won't work out. Your current story is built from every experience you've had, every lesson you were taught, and every label you've accepted about yourself. It's a combination of past setbacks, words from people you trusted, and even misunderstandings that grew into your beliefs over time. Maybe as a child you were told you were too shy, and so you grew up internalizing that shyness is part of who you are. Now, as an adult, every time you're in a social setting, there's a voice whispering, "You're not a social person." And so you retreat, reinforcing the very belief you're trying to overcome. Often this story becomes like a script, guiding you without you even realizing it. It's a script that tells you where you're supposed to stand, what you're supposed to think, and how you're supposed to feel. Maybe it tells you you're the supporting character in your own life rather than the main one. Or it might frame you as someone who tries hard but never quite succeeds. These scripts may feel so true that they don't even seem like beliefs anymore, they feel like facts. But they aren't facts, they're interpretations. They're conclusions you came to once upon a time based on limited information and experience, and then accepted as the truth. Identifying this story isn't about blaming yourself or anyone else. It's about bringing it into the light, examining it for what it really is. So many of us carry these silent stories for decades without realizing how they're shaping our lives. We're not aware of how they're keeping us in a pattern of thoughts and behaviors that align with them. Instead, we get frustrated with ourselves for always falling short or never measuring up. But when you pull back and really look at the stories you've been living, you start to see how they've subtly, almost invisibly influenced every choice, every habit, every relationship. So take a close look at the way you speak to yourself, the way you think about your abilities, and the way you perceive your limits. What are the phrases that come to mind when you face a new challenge? What do you tell yourself when you stumble? Those automatic responses are clues, reflections of the story you believe about who you are and what you're capable of. Once you've uncovered the story you've been living, it's time to decide who you want to become. This isn't just about imagining a different version of yourself, it's about designing a new blueprint for your life. A new identity goes beyond setting goals or making resolutions. It's about establishing the core beliefs, values, and qualities that define who you are. It's an opportunity to break free from the labels you've outgrown or maybe never even wanted in the first place. Start by asking yourself who this new person is at their core. This identity should be so vivid, so detailed, that it feels as real as any memory. Think beyond superficial changes and focus on qualities that resonate deeply with the person you want to become. Maybe this new version of you is someone who values consistency, who doesn't wait for motivation to take action, who sees setbacks not as failures but as lessons. Imagine a person who embraces resilience and approaches challenges with an open mind, someone who looks at obstacles and thinks, "I can handle this and I'll find a way to grow from it." Consider the qualities that this new identity would embody on a day-to-day basis. Picture someone who is disciplined, who treats their word as a bond, and who doesn't make excuses. This is a person who prioritizes their physical and mental well-being, who embraces a mindset of continuous learning and self-improvement. They're confident not because life is always easy, but because they know they can trust themselves to handle whatever comes. When they make a commitment, they follow through because integrity is a core part of who they are. Defining this new identity also means letting go of limiting beliefs and labels. If you spent years believing, "I'm just not a disciplined person," start to replace that with a more empowering belief. Picture yourself as someone who values structure, who finds satisfaction in small, consistent actions that add up over time. If you've been living with the identity of someone who never has enough time, reshape that into the identity of someone who is resourceful, someone who prioritizes what truly matters and makes the most of every moment. It's also important to think about how this new identity impacts your relationships. Who are you as a friend, a partner, a colleague? Maybe in the past you've seen yourself as someone who avoids conflict, who prefers to stay quiet to keep the peace. But your new identity could be someone who values honesty, who has the courage to communicate openly and set boundaries when needed. This doesn't mean becoming someone you're not. It's about becoming more aligned with who you truly want to be. To define your new identity, write down every characteristic, every trait that aligns with this vision. Make it as detailed as possible. Describe not only what this new version of you does, but also how they think and feel. How do they handle stress? How do they react when things don't go as planned? Imagine how they carry themselves, how they speak, how they interact with the world around them. This level of clarity turns your new identity from an abstract idea into something you can actually work toward. And remember, this isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Your new identity should be inspiring and challenging, but also achievable. This is not about creating an idealized version of yourself that feels out of reach. It's about defining a version of you that aligns with your highest potential, that stretches you without overwhelming you. Think about what drives you, what you're passionate about, and how you want to be remembered. Define yourself as someone who takes pride in their work, who is resilient in the face of adversity, who is not afraid to dream big and put in the effort to make those dreams a reality. The clearer you are, the easier it will be to start embodying this identity every single day. Once you have a clear vision of your new identity, it's time to start embodying it. This isn't about pretending or putting on a facade. It's about consistently choosing to act in alignment with the person you've defined yourself to be, even before you fully feel like that person. This is where transformation truly begins, because by acting as if you're already that person, you're building the habits, mindset, and behaviors that make that identity a reality. Acting as if isn't about grand gestures, it's in the small, daily choices. Ask yourself, how would the person I want to become handle this situation? Picture that version of you facing the challenges you encounter each day. If your new identity is someone who is disciplined and organized, what time would they wake up? How would they approach their morning routine? Would they let distractions take over their day, or would they set priorities and stick to them? Every action, no matter how small, either aligns with your new identity or reinforces the old one. It's these little decisions, whether to hit snooze or get up, to follow through on a task or procrastinate, that create real change over time. Imagine, for example, that you want to become someone who's confident in social situations. In the past, you might have avoided conversations or kept to the edges of the room, waiting for someone else to initiate. Acting as if means stepping into a space with a different energy, challenging yourself to make eye contact, initiate conversations, and speak up, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. It's not about suddenly being outgoing or charismatic. It's about making small adjustments in your behavior that reflect confidence, even if you're still working on feeling that confidence internally. Over time, those behaviors start to feel natural, and the feeling of confidence grows to match the actions. Similarly, if your goal is to be someone who is physically fit, acting as if involves making choices that reflect that identity even before you see physical results. You might start by going to the gym regularly, prioritizing movement, choosing meals that nourish your body. You might initially feel like an imposter in a fitness environment, or doubt yourself in front of others who seem more advanced. But by showing up and doing the work, by behaving in alignment with your new identity, you're training both your body and mind to see yourself as someone who values health and fitness. Acting as if also involves paying attention to how you talk to yourself. If your new identity is someone who is resilient, start talking to yourself with resilience in mind. When you face setbacks, respond with encouragement and determination rather than self-criticism. Remind yourself that failure isn't an endpoint, it's part of the journey. Replace thoughts like, I can't do this, with, I'll find a way. At first, it might feel strange or forced, especially if you're used to being hard on yourself. But this practice of speaking to yourself as someone who believes in their own strength creates a mental shift that supports every other action. Acting as if doesn't mean ignoring your emotions or pretending challenges don't exist. It means acknowledging them but choosing to respond from a place of growth rather than defeat. If your new identity is someone who doesn't give up easily, acting as if means sticking to a task even when it gets hard. It means choosing persistence over giving in to frustration. When things don't go according to plan, acting as if you're already resilient means asking, what can I learn from this? How can I adjust my approach? You're not just reacting to life, you're responding with intention and purpose, guided by the person you're becoming. And remember, acting as if is a continuous choice. It's not about flipping a switch and instantly becoming someone new. It's about making the choice over and over again to align your actions with your new identity. It's easy to slip back into old habits, to revert to familiar ways of thinking and behaving, especially when things get tough. But the more you practice acting as if, the more natural it becomes. Building a new identity isn't something you do in isolation. The environment you place yourself in, the people, the resources, the physical space plays a significant role in either supporting or hindering your transformation. When you're striving to embody a new identity, surrounding yourself with reinforcement is essential. This means curating a world around you that aligns with the person you're becoming, choosing influences that strengthen and sustain your growth rather than pull you back into old patterns. Start by looking at the people you interact with regularly. Are they supportive of your new path? Are they pushing you to be the best version of yourself, or do they reinforce an old version of you that you're trying to leave behind? If you're aiming to be more positive, more ambitious, more disciplined, it can be difficult to stay on that path if you're surrounded by negativity, doubt, or complacency. Seek out people who embody the qualities you're working to cultivate, those who can offer guidance, inspiration, and encouragement. These could be friends, mentors, colleagues, or even family members who believe in your vision and are willing to hold you accountable. Sometimes surrounding yourself with reinforcement means making tough choices. There may be people in your life who, consciously or not, want to keep you where you are because it's comfortable for them. They might question your goals or try to convince you that change isn't necessary. Recognize that while these people may care for you, they may not be the best influence for your growth. This doesn't necessarily mean cutting them out completely, but it may mean creating some distance, setting boundaries, or choosing to limit the time you spend in environments that don't align with your new identity.
Reinforcement also extends to the resources you consume. Every day you're influenced by the content you read, watch, and listen to. If your new identity is one of resilience and ambition, choose to immerse yourself in books, podcasts, videos, and other media that reflect those qualities.
Instead of passively consuming whatever comes your way, be intentional about what you allow into your mind. Follow people on social media who inspire you to grow, who share insights and habits that align with the person you want to become. Listen to podcasts or watch documentaries that expose you to ideas, challenges, and success stories that remind you what's possible. Surrounding yourself with these resources creates a mental environment that continually reminds you of your potential and reinforces your new identity. Physical spaces matter too. Take a look at your immediate environment, your home, your workspace, the places you spend the most time. Do they support the identity you're cultivating? If you want to be someone who's organized and focused, create a workspace that reflects that. Clear out clutter. Set up an area that invites productivity and add small reminders of your goals and values, whether that's a vision board, inspirational quotes, or visual symbols that remind you of the person you're becoming. When your surroundings reflect your new identity, it becomes easier to act in alignment with it because you're constantly being reminded of who you are striving to be. One of the most powerful forms of reinforcement comes from communities of like-minded individuals. Finding a group of people who are also committed to growth can be incredibly energizing. Whether it's a mastermind group, a class, a club, or an online community, surrounding yourself with people on similar journeys helps normalize the process of change. You gain insights from their experiences, learn from their setbacks, and celebrate wins together. These communities create a sense of shared momentum that keeps you engaged and accountable, reminding you that you're not alone on this journey. Their successes become fuel for your own drive, and their resilience helps you keep pushing forward, even when things get challenging. Surrounding yourself with reinforcement isn't just about adding positive influences, it's also about actively removing what doesn't serve you. This could mean cutting back on time with people who drain your energy or shifting your focus away from media that promotes negativity, fear, or self-doubt. It's about being vigilant and protective of your mental and emotional space, recognizing that everything you expose yourself to has an impact. As you go through this process, you'll find that the influences in your life either align with your new identity or they don't. The more you refine what you let in, the stronger your new identity becomes because there's less noise pulling you back into old habits. This level of reinforcement goes beyond motivation. It's about creating an ecosystem that naturally supports your growth. Every conversation, every book, every room you step into can either remind you of your old limitations or support your journey toward becoming the person you truly want to be. By surrounding yourself with the right people, resources, and environments, you're not just hoping for change, you're setting yourself up to succeed. Transformation doesn't happen overnight. Lasting change, the kind that redefines who you are at a core level, requires consistency and time. The process of building a new identity is gradual, made up of thousands of small, intentional actions that add up to something significant over weeks, months, and even years. To fully step into your new self, you have to embrace the idea that change isn't an instant leap, but a series of steady steps taken day in and day out. Consistency is what separates those who make real progress from those who give up along the way. It's easy to feel inspired and motivated at the beginning, when the vision of your new identity is fresh and exciting. But motivation doesn't last, it fades, especially when things get difficult or life throws you curveballs. That's where consistency steps in as your greatest ally. It's about showing up and putting in the effort, not just on the days when it feels easy or exciting, but also on the days when you're tired, stressed, or tempted to fall back into old habits. The commitment to act, even when the initial motivation is faded, builds resilience and makes this new identity a genuine part of you. Embracing consistency means understanding that growth is often invisible in the moment. You might not see immediate results from a single workout, a day of focused work, or a night of rest instead of staying up late. But over time, these small choices compound. Each small step is like planting a seed, and just because you don't see it sprouting immediately doesn't mean nothing is happening. Trust that with each consistent action, you're strengthening the foundation of your new identity. Eventually, the results will become visible, but only if you're patient enough to allow the process to unfold. Time is a critical part of this journey. Real change is often slower than we want it to be, and it's easy to become discouraged when progress seems slow or when you face setbacks. But time is where transformation takes root. Just as a tree doesn't grow strong and tall overnight, your new identity needs time to solidify. When you embrace time as a necessary part of the process, you allow yourself to grow without the pressure of unrealistic deadlines. Instead of rushing, you start to appreciate the process itself, the challenges that strengthen you, the small wins that keep you going, and the gradual evolution that happens when you stay the course. Part of embracing time and consistency means accepting that setbacks will happen. There will be days when you slip back into old habits, when you make choices that don't align with your new identity. Instead of letting those moments derail you, view them as part of the process. Progress isn't linear, it's filled with ups and downs, with steps forward and steps back. What matters isn't perfection but persistence. When you encounter setbacks, use them as opportunities to reflect, learn, and recommit to your new path. Each time you get back on track after a slip-up, you're reinforcing resilience, proving to yourself that a momentary lapse doesn't define you. Consistency also teaches you the value of discipline. Discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want right now. It's choosing to work toward your long-term vision instead of giving in to temporary comfort or convenience. When you prioritize your commitment over fleeting desires, you start to build self-trust. You prove to yourself that you're capable of doing hard things, capable of sticking to your word, and capable of creating change, even if the results take time to appear. This discipline becomes a cornerstone of your new identity, reinforcing the belief that you're someone who follows through, who can be counted on to stay true to their goals.
Embracing consistency and time also means developing patience with yourself. Building a new identity is a journey of self-discovery and growth, not a race. There will be times when it feels like progress is slow or even non-existent, and it's easy to get frustrated or feel like giving up.
But true change requires you to be kind to yourself, to recognize that growth happens in seasons. Some seasons are filled with visible progress, while others are more about internal growth, laying the groundwork for the changes that are yet to come. When you're patient, you're able to weather the quiet seasons, knowing that every moment, every action, every small victory is bringing you closer to the person you want to become. As you continue, consistency will start to build momentum. At first, each step may feel like a struggle, each decision a conscious effort. But over time, these actions start to become second nature. What once required effort and discipline begins to feel natural. And this is when you know that your new identity is taking hold. You're no longer just acting as if you're becoming. You begin to embody your new identity without having to think about it constantly. The actions that once felt foreign now feel familiar. And the person you once aspired to become feels like the person you truly are. The shift only happens through the steady, patient work of consistency and the willingness to give yourself the time you need to grow. As you begin to notice the changes within yourself, it's crucial to celebrate the progress you've made. This isn't about waiting for some final destination or perfect version of yourself. It's about recognizing and appreciating every step forward, every small victory, every new habit that now feels natural. Celebrating the shift means acknowledging the effort, resilience, and persistence it took to get to this point. It's about giving yourself credit for every moment you chose growth over comfort, for every time you chose to keep going when it would be easier to quit. Celebrate the fact that you took the leap to redefine yourself, that you dared to question your old identity and embrace a new one. Think back to where you started, to the doubts and challenges you faced along the way. You may not be where you ultimately want to be yet, but you're far from where you began. Every decision you made, every setback you overcame, every time you showed up when it was hard, those are all accomplishments worth honoring. Remind yourself of the courage it took to embark on this journey and the strength it took to continue. Celebrating the shift also means appreciating the internal changes, not just the external results. Maybe you're noticing that you think differently now, that you react to challenges with more resilience, or that your self-talk has become kinder and more empowering.
These internal shifts are signs of real transformation. They're the foundation of a new mindset, one that will support you long after this initial journey. By recognizing these subtle but profound changes, you reinforce the belief that you are truly becoming the person you set out to be. Acknowledging your progress doesn't have to be extravagant. It can be as simple as taking a moment to reflect.
journaling about the growth you've experienced, or sharing your journey with someone who supports you. Celebrate each milestone, no matter how small. Each achievement, no matter how seemingly insignificant, is a building block in the structure of your new identity. Whether it's staying consistent with a habit, responding to a situation in a new way, or noticing a shift in your energy and focus, take a moment to recognize it. Celebrating the shift isn't just about looking back, it's also about reinforcing the behaviors and mindsets that got you here. When you take time to celebrate, you're acknowledging to yourself that this new path is worthwhile, that these efforts matter, and that you're proud of the person you're becoming. This celebration strengthens your commitment to keep going, to keep evolving, and to keep choosing growth even when it's hard. By honoring your progress, you're creating positive reinforcement for the choices that align with your new identity. When you celebrate, you're also training your mind to focus on what's working instead of what's missing. This positive focus fuels motivation, helping you stay inspired and energized as you continue. It's easy to get caught up in what still needs improvement or to focus on how far you still have to go, but celebrating the shift reminds you of everything you've already achieved. It's about giving yourself permission to feel proud, to experience gratitude, and to savor the joy of becoming a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. This celebration becomes a reminder of your capacity to change and grow, reinforcing the belief that you're capable of even more. Take a moment to reflect on how your life has changed since you began this journey. Look at how far you've come, the obstacles you've overcome, and the person you're becoming. Celebrating these shifts doesn't mean you've reached the end, it means you're recognizing each step as an essential part of the journey. It's about creating a habit of gratitude, one that keeps you focused on the positive aspects of your growth. This celebration of your progress, both big and small, becomes fuel for future achievements, a reminder that every effort is worth it, and that you are indeed transforming into the person you've always had the potential to become.